It started like any other Friday night. A bottle of wine, bad takeout, and too much small talk. Madison had invited Chloe, her best friend, and Eric, one of our mutual friends who somehow kept showing up whenever there was alcohol or drama. The four of us sat around the living room table. Madison was cross-legged on the couch, Chloe beside her, both scrolling through their phones between bites of noodles. Eric was half lying in my armchair like it was a rented throne, swirling his wine like a philosopher who never paid rent on time. I remember thinking, nothing good ever starts with wine and couples talk. For the first half hour, it was harmless. Memes, work gossip, complaints about traffic, the usual background noise of adults pretending to unwind. Then Madison sighed, that long theatrical sigh women make when they're about to drop something important. She stared at her glass for a second, then said, "Don't you feel like something's missing lately?" I looked up. "Missing? You mean besides peace and quiet?" Chloe laughed too loud. "He's joking, but that's exactly the problem. You two joke everything off. No wonder things feel stale." Madison gave me that see what I mean look. It's not bad, it's just routine, work, dinner, Netflix, sleep. It's like we're on autopilot. Autopilot sounds great, I said. It means the plane isn't crashing. Eric finally decided to contribute. Nah, man, sometimes autopilot means you've stopped paying attention. You gotta shake things up. By what? I asked. Turning off the engine mid-flight? Chloe jumped in, her tone too confident for someone who wasn't invited to fix anyone's marriage. You should try a break. Not a breakup, just space. 30 days apart. No texts, no calls. It's a psychology thing. Eric nodded like a bobblehead. Exactly. You detox from each other, then when you reconnect, boom, fresh spark. I blinked at both of them. You two rehearsed this? Madison stayed quiet for a moment, spinning her wine glass. It doesn't sound crazy. Maybe we do need some space, just to miss each other again. Or, I said, we could skip the weird therapy experiment and just talk. You know, like adults with functioning Wi-Fi. Chloe rolled her eyes. You're impossible. No wonder she feels stuck. Stuck? I said. She's sitting on a heated couch drinking wine that I bought in a house that I cleaned this morning. If this is stuck, then I'm fine being super glued. Eric chuckled, but in that fake, supportive way. Dude, don't take it personally. Everyone goes through a phase. 30 days apart isn't a big deal. It's just breathing room. Breathing room? I looked at him. Eric, you've been divorced twice and live with a cat named Diesel. Maybe don't hand out relationship advice like Halloween candy. Even Chloe laughed at that, but Madison wasn't smiling. She crossed her arms and said, I just think it might help. It's not about running away. It's about reflecting. Reflecting where? I asked. In your friend's apartment while she live blogs our marriage? Chloe pretended not to hear that. She can stay with me. I'll keep her focused. No distractions, no pressure. Except you and your endless wisdom, I muttered. Don't be rude, Madison snapped. I set down my glass. I'm not being rude. I'm just trying to figure out how 3 people drinking my wine suddenly became my life coaches. For a second, nobody said anything. Then Eric raised his glass like it was a closing statement. Look, man, it's 30 days. What's the worst that can happen? I stared at him. You really want me to answer that? Madison sighed again, softer this time. I think I'm going to try it. And that was that. No vote, no discussion, just a royal decree. Chloe looked satisfied, Eric looked smug, and I sat there wondering how I'd lost a debate I never joined. When everyone left, the house felt too quiet. Madison kissed me on the cheek, the kind of quick, polite kiss you give a coworker on their birthday. Don't overthink it, she said. It's just 30 days. Right, I said, 30 days. What could possibly go wrong? Spoiler, everything. The next morning felt strange. The kind of quiet you get after a fight that technically didn't happen, but everyone knows it did. Madison woke up earlier than usual. No coffee in bed, no morning, hey, just the sound of hangers clinking in the closet. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You planning a vacation or a personality change? She didn't even look up. Don't start. I'm not starting. You started when you turned our living room into a TED Talk about relationships. Madison sighed, like she'd already regretted inviting Chloe and Eric over. Can you not make this harder? Harder? I raised an eyebrow. You're packing half the closet to go think. I'm just wondering if your reflection requires 6 pairs of shoes. She turned, holding one of my hoodies in her hands, the one she always wore when she was cold. I'll bring this, she said quietly. I nodded. Of course. Wouldn't want the hoodie to feel lonely. She rolled her eyes and went back to folding clothes. The silence between us wasn't hostile. It was worse. It was surgical. Clean, precise, emotionless. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. And right there, I knew the circus had arrived. Chloe stepped in like she owned the place, holding a coffee the size of a fire extinguisher. She looked way too cheerful for someone helping dismantle a marriage. Good morning, she sang, with the same tone real estate agents use before they tell you the price. Madison smiled faintly. I didn't. Wow, Chloe said, scanning the pile of clothes on the bed. You're really doing this. I'm proud of you, babe. Most people never have the guts to hit pause and put themselves first. I bit back a laugh. Yeah, real bravery. Walking out of your own house with a personal assistant and a suitcase. She ignored me, of course. Don't mind him, she said to Madison. He's just scared of change. Not really, I said. I just prefer changes that don't require a moving van. Chloe gave me that polite, tight smile women use when they've mentally muted you. She went back to helping Madison fold clothes, or more like, performing it for the cameras that weren't there. I noticed something, though. Madison wasn't leading the packing. Chloe was. Madison looked like someone following orders she didn't understand. And Chloe loved every second of it. That woman thrived on chaos like a plant on sunlight. She kept tossing motivational lines while folding sweaters. You'll feel so refreshed. You'll finally have time to breathe. Distance gives perspective. I finally said, if I hear one more self-help quote, I'm calling a priest. Madison glared. You're impossible. No, I said. I'm consistent. Big difference. Chloe exhaled through her nose, clearly annoyed I wasn't playing along. You know, some people would kill for a husband who lets them have space. Yeah, I said. And some people would kill for a best friend who minds her own business. That one landed. She smiled tightly. You're angry. That's okay. Anger's part of the process. Oh, great, I said. Now I'm in the Kubler-Ross stages of stupidity. Madison stepped between us. Please stop. You're both impossible. I threw my hands up. You wanted honesty. I'm being honest. And right on cue, there was a horn outside. A long, confident beep. Of course. Chloe peeked through the window, her grin returning. That'll be Eric. He said he'd come early, help with the luggage. I muttered, yeah, because when I think of marriage counseling, I think of that guy. Madison turned sharply. He's just being nice. Sure, I said, and I'm just being observant. You're overreacting. Eric's a friend. Right, I said, and I'm the Queen of England. She ignored me again. These people could have won Olympic gold in selective hearing. Then Eric walked in, sunglasses on, holding 2 reusable grocery bags like he was here to save the day. Hey man, he said, giving me a nod that screamed, I'm the good guy here. I forced a smile. Morning. Heard you're volunteering for marriage logistics. He chuckled. Just helping out. Nothing serious. Yeah, I said. That's usually what people say before it gets serious. Madison groaned. Can you two stop acting like children? Sure, I said. As soon as the adults stop making stupid decisions. Chloe gave her friend's arm a gentle squeeze. Come on, babe. Let's get going before this turns into another fight. Madison zipped up her suitcase. It's not a fight, she said, not looking at me. It's just something I need to do. I nodded slowly. Fine. Do it. Just don't call it growth if it's really escape. That one hit. I saw it in her eyes, even if she didn't say anything. Eric grabbed the suitcase, and they all started moving toward the door like a mini parade of bad choices. Madison turned to me for one last line. Don't wait up for me. I smiled without humor. Trust me, I won't. But hey, enjoy your break. I'll make sure the Wi-Fi misses you. No goodbye kiss, no hug. Just the sound of the door closing and a car pulling away, and then silence. Real silence. Not peaceful, not calm, the kind that echoes. I stood there for a minute, staring at the space she'd just left, trying to decide whether to laugh or punch a wall. I did neither. Instead, I went to the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of wine, the one they didn't finish last night, and poured myself a glass. To 30 days, I said quietly. May they pass quickly and prove me right. Then I sat in the empty living room, listening to the hum of the fridge and thinking, if this is what healing sounds like, I might prefer the arguing. The first morning without her felt like someone lowered the volume on my life and forgot where the remote was. The apartment sounded wrong. The bathroom fan hummed for too long. The kettle clicked like it was arguing with itself. Even the neighbor's dog, the one that usually howls at dust particles, took the day off. I made coffee and stood at the window longer than a normal human should, watching nothing in particular and pretending I was thinking big thoughts. Mostly, I was just counting the seconds and getting irritated at how slow they were. Breakfast was quiet. It turns out toast is a depressing meal when you eat it out of spite. I wiped down the counter even though it was already clean. I told myself I wouldn't check her socials. I lasted 12 minutes. There wasn't much. A generic story repost about growth with beige fonts and a photo of a lavender candle that looked like it smelled like debt. I put the phone face down and told myself I would do better. The phone buzzed anyway. It wasn't her. Chloe. Hey, just checking in. How are you holding up? I stared at the screen. 8 in the morning and she's already playing the helpful angel. I put the phone down. The phone buzzed again. Chloe. I know you probably don't want to talk, but I'm here if you need an ear. Coffee later? No pressure. No pressure is what people say right before they add pressure. I typed nothing and deleted it. I typed, I'm fine. Then I deleted that too, because I'm not sending a status update to the person who sold me on this circus. I locked the screen and went to shower. Work helped. Numbers don't lie, and spreadsheets don't send you inspirational quotes. I made 3 calls, answered 6 emails, and said words like deliverable and timeline with a straight face. At lunch, I opened the fridge out of habit and closed it again out of reality. The fridge had the energy of a bachelor's autobiography. Water, mustard, questionable lettuce, and a lemon plotting its escape. By late afternoon, the silence mellowed into something tolerable. I noticed things I hadn't in months. The way light slides across the floor around 3, dust floating like indecisive snow. The exact creak the hallway makes when the building exhales. Peace is sticky. It clings when you stop swatting at it. I started to think maybe this wouldn't be hell, just mildly inconvenient purgatory. The phone buzzed again. Chloe. Not trying to intrude, but I'm in your neighborhood. Coffee? 10 minutes. Or I can drop off a pastry at the door and run. I pictured her jogging away in slow motion to heroic music after delivering a croissant of compassion. I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, Chloe. Okay, I hear you. Last message for today. You don't have to pretend you're made of stone. I know you. You care deeply. The I know you hit a nerve it didn't deserve. I turned off notifications and went for a run. It was a bad run, the kind where your lungs file a complaint and your calves act like you're trying to end them. Still, I'll give exercise this. It's one of the few human activities that makes silence louder and your brain quieter. Day 2 arrived without asking me. I worked, I cleaned, I repeated. Around noon, the buzzer sounded. I pressed the intercom. Yeah? Special delivery from your favorite person. If this is a pizza, you're my favorite person. If this is a conversation, you have the wrong address. A moment later, 3 light knocks. I opened the door. Chloe stood there with a tall coffee and a paper bag, smiling like a brand ambassador for comfort. I brought cinnamon rolls, she said. I know you won't cook for yourself. I do, actually, I said. It's called reheating. Let me in before your hallway starts judging me. She breezed past me because that's her default speed and set the bag on the counter. The apartment immediately smelled like sugar and strategy. Nice place, she said like she'd never been here. Minimalist. It's called having one person less. She turned, eyebrows up. Too soon? Not soon enough. She opened cabinets without asking, found plates on the second try, and plated the rolls like we were on a cooking show. I leaned on the counter with arms crossed and watched her play host in my kitchen. So, she said lightly, how's day 2? Quieter. That's the point, she said soft. To hear your own thoughts again. I've heard them. They're unimpressed. She smiled. You deflect with jokes when you're uncomfortable? And you overtalk when you want control. I smiled back. We all have talents. She held my gaze a beat longer than a friend needs to. Then she looked down and tore a cinnamon roll in half. I might need to grab a few of Madison's things later. Some notebooks, skincare, the little jade roller she swears did something. Did it? Placebo is still a result. She took a slow bite, then slipped the other half toward me. I didn't move. She chewed and looked around like a cat pretending to be interested in architecture. You know, she said, picking at icing, this is good for her. For both of you. Space clears the fog. Fog is natural, I said. It keeps people from walking off cliffs. And yet, she said, sometimes you need to see the edge. She licked sugar off her finger without ceremony. You look tired. Silence is exhausting at first, I said. Too many thoughts trying to be heard at once. She nodded like a therapist pretending to care. If you need to talk to someone who won't take swipes at you. Like Madison's best friend, I said. That someone? Her tone softened. Like me. We've known each other for a while. I get you more than you think. There it was. Not a sentence, a direction. I rinsed a mug that didn't need rinsing. I'll manage, I said. I know you will, she answered. You always do. That's kind of the problem. She let that hang in the air like a chandelier I didn't order. After another minute of small observations about the weather and my tragic lack of houseplants, she left with an, I'll text before swinging by for Madison's stuff. I didn't say she could. I also didn't say she couldn't. That's how most bad decisions get invited, through doors labeled whatever. Her messages kept a steady rhythm after that. Morning check-ins, afternoon invitations, evening no-pressure nudges. The tone drifted from helpful to something else. Lighter, warmer, with a subtext you could spread with a knife. You don't have to be a hero every day. If you want to sit in silence with coffee, I can do silence. You were always more thoughtful than people give you credit for. Compliments written like secrets. I didn't respond. I screenshotted nothing, saved everything, and told myself I was just collecting quiet. Day 4, she buzzed again. Picking up Madison's things, 5 minutes? I almost said no. Instead, I said, doors open. She arrived with a tote big enough to smuggle a small person. I'll be quick, she said, already heading to the bedroom. She asked for the blue sweater, the journal with the leather tie, and the necklace she says is lucky even though it only worked once. In college? I asked. She glanced over her shoulder, a surprised smile. You remember the story? You tell it every Christmas when someone opens anything with ribbon. She laughed, genuine for once. Right. Then she opened our closet with a practiced flick, like she'd been keeping inventory. It was small things like that, tiny confidence around our space, that made the back of my neck itch. She pulled the blue sweater, let her fingers drag along the fabric longer than needed, then moved to the dresser. Jewelry tray, artfully messy. She sorted through it, her movements neat and particular, like she was curating an exhibit called Things That Used to Be Shared. "Is she sleeping okay?" I asked, surprising myself. "She says yes," Chloe answered, not looking up. "I say she needs real rest, not just late-night thinking." "Thinking looks a lot like scrolling," I said. "To everyone," she said, smirking. "Except the person scrolling." She reached for the journal, then hesitated. "Oh, she wrote your name on the first page." "I know," I said. "It's my name." She gave me a side eye. "You're funny when you're irritated." "I'm funny all the time," I said. "I'm just more honest when I'm irritated." She closed the journal gently and set it on the tote, then leaned on the dresser like she was taking a break from a labor-intensive job. Her eyes moved across the room and settled on me. "You know," she said quietly, "you don't have to do this stoic statue thing. It's allowed to hurt." "It does," I said. "It also passes." She let the silence stretch, then softer. "If you ever, I don't know, want an hour where no one expects you to fix anything, I can be that hour. No agenda." I cocked my head. "No agenda?" She smiled with just one corner of her mouth. "Well, maybe one, a human one." I didn't step forward and I didn't step back. I stayed exactly where I was, a man practicing the dangerous discipline of not moving. Finally, I said, "Text me the list next time. I'll pack it." Her face did a tiny flicker. Surprise, calculation, retreat. She nodded once. "Okay." At the door she paused. "You used to be warm." "I still am," I said, "just not to everyone." She held my eyes a second longer, then left. The lock clicked. Before bed, I sat on the floor beside the bed instead of in it. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to feel grounded. Maybe I just wanted to do something that didn't remind me of summer movies where people fix things in 2 montages. I scrolled through the day's messages again and turned the phone face down. At 11:43, it buzzed. I checked without meaning to. "Chloe. Can't sleep. Hope you're okay. Coffee tomorrow?" "My treat. Promise I won't say anything wise. We can even sit in different corners and judge other people's outfits." I stared at the screen long enough for it to dim, then locked it. The house held its breath. Across the city, I pictured Madison on a different pillow, under a different ceiling, telling herself she was doing something brave. Maybe she was. Maybe I was. Or maybe bravery is just a nice word we use when we can't tell if we're running toward something or away from it. Day 10 rolled around like an uninvited thought. I'd stopped counting, but the silence kept track for me. It wasn't heavy anymore, just strange, familiar. I'd learned the rhythm of an empty house. The floors had opinions now. The fridge sighed dramatically. Even the Wi-Fi seemed slower, like it missed her constant scrolling. Then, around 2 p.m., a car horn outside, 2 short beeps. I froze mid-email. I knew that sound. Same tone, same confidence. Eric's car, of course. Another knock followed, polite but impatient. I opened the door, and there she was. Madison. Jeans, sweatshirt, hair tied up in that casual, I didn't plan this way that always meant she'd planned everything. And behind her, parked neatly in the driveway, Eric's car idling like a loyal guard dog. I leaned on the doorframe. "Well, this is a plot twist," she smiled awkwardly. "Can I come in?" "Depends. Is this a visit or a parole check?" "Please don't start," she said, stepping past me anyway. "I just wanted to talk." I glanced over her shoulder at the car. Eric sat there, pretending to scroll through his phone, sunglasses on, engine running. "You brought backup?" "He just gave me a ride." "Yeah," I said. "Uber has competition." Madison sighed. "I know this looks weird." "Good," I said, "because it is." She walked to the kitchen like she still lived here. The casual familiarity hit harder than I expected. She touched the counter, glanced at the plant she never watered, the mug she forgot. "The place looks nice. It's clean," I said. "Turns out Peace is a great cleaning product." She winced but kept her tone calm. "I didn't come to fight." "That's good. You brought the wrong crowd for it anyway. She looked at me. You're really doing this cold guy act, huh? It's not an act, I said. It's the result of great direction. Madison rolled her eyes. I thought we were adults. Adults don't run off to think while their friends play puppet master. That's not fair, she said quietly. Neither is this conversation. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. She fiddled with her sleeve, the same nervous habit I used to find cute. Now it just looked like a ticking clock. Finally, she said, I just wanted to check on you, see how you were doing. I'm fine, I said. Better, actually. She frowned, like that answer offended her. You're not even upset? Oh, I was, I said, mostly at myself for agreeing to a group project I never signed up for. God, you're so sarcastic sometimes. Yeah, you used to like that. She leaned against the counter, soft voice. This doesn't have to be ugly. It doesn't, I agreed. That's why I'm keeping it short. Madison blinked. What's that supposed to mean? It means... I gestured toward the window, where Eric was still parked. That your ride's waiting, and he looks like he's running out of gas. Seriously? She asked. You're kicking me out? No, I said evenly. I'm reminding you that you're the one who left. Big difference. Her jaw tightened. I thought maybe we could talk like normal people. We stopped being normal when your life coach over there started scheduling our marriage like a yoga retreat. She grabbed her bag. You know what? Forget it. I shouldn't have come. That, I said, is the first smart thing anyone said all month. Madison turned sharply, glaring at me. You're unbelievable. And yet, I said, completely believable. That's the problem. She yanked the door open. Outside, Eric's car door popped as he half-stepped out, ready to play hero. I met his gaze for a solid second. Tell your driver not to leave, I said, voice calm. Looks like you're not done thinking yet. She froze, eyes flashing hurt and anger mixed together. A cocktail she was never good at handling. You know what? Enjoy your little kingdom of silence. I am, I said. You'd be surprised how peaceful it is when everyone stops pretending. She stomped off, slamming the door harder than necessary. Eric hovered like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. Smart man. The car rolled away, slow, silent, deliberate. When the sound faded, I exhaled. The quiet that followed wasn't lonely anymore. It was earned. It felt like oxygen after too long underwater. I poured a drink, sat by the window, and watched the late sun crawl across the floor. My hands weren't shaking. My thoughts weren't loud. For the first time since the experiment began, I realized I didn't miss her voice. I missed who I was before every conversation turned into a debate about feelings. By the time the glass was empty, I caught myself smiling, not wide, not cruel, just steady. I realized that I don't want to take part in this circus anymore. After Madison's visit, everything inside me switched from noise to clarity. It wasn't peace exactly, more like the silence you get after a long argument, when both sides finally run out of excuses. For the first time in weeks, I didn't wake up with a lump in my throat. I didn't replay her words. I didn't stalk her stories or check if she was active now. I just made coffee, answered emails, watered a plant I didn't even like, and realized how nice it was to move through my day without waiting for permission to exist. That's when I understood something. Peace doesn't come when they come back. It comes when you stop caring if they do. Of course, the universe hates people who figure that out too soon, so naturally, Chloe started messaging again. Little things at first. Hope you're okay. You've been quiet. We should talk sometime. But I wasn't interested in more talk, so I ignored her. Politely, strategically. And the more I ignored, the clearer my head became. I started to see the pattern. How easily Madison had been steered. How Chloe and Eric had nudged us like we were part of some amateur psychology experiment. They weren't evil. They were just bored. And boredom, mixed with influence, is a dangerous cocktail. By day 20, the silence didn't feel like a punishment anymore. It felt like freedom disguised as patience. I worked longer hours, cooked real meals, even started running again. My reflection didn't look angry. It looked focused. The lawyer's number had been sitting in my notes app for a week. One morning, I scrolled past it 3 times before pressing call. He answered with the calm tone of a man who's heard every version of, "It's complicated." "Name and situation?" he asked. "Name's irrelevant," I said. "Situation's over." He chuckled. "You sound sure." "I'm not angry," I told him. "That's how I know I'm done." We talked for 10 minutes. Papers, timing, logistics. Straightforward, clinical. Like scheduling a dentist appointment, except instead of a tooth, you're extracting a whole person from your life. When I hung up, I expected to feel heavy. Instead, I felt light. It's strange how deciding to let go can feel cleaner than holding on ever did. That night, I took one last walk through the house. Slow, deliberate, like saying goodbye to the version of me that used to wait for someone else's approval. The photos on the wall didn't sting anymore. They just looked like evidence of someone else's chapter. I poured a drink, sat by the window, and thought about how calm everything had become. The house didn't echo. It breathed. The silence wasn't empty. It was mine. I even found myself smirking. The irony wasn't lost on me. Madison had wanted 30 days apart to find herself. Instead, I'd found something better: my boundaries. The divorce papers were ready by day 28. I signed my part in silence. No dramatic music, no tears, just pen on paper. The quietest sound of closure in the world. I didn't plan to make a scene when she came back. No yelling, no revenge, just truth, clean and sharp. I'd show her the messages, not to humiliate her, but to prove something deeper. That people who love you shouldn't be so easy to mislead or replace. It wasn't bitterness anymore. It was clarity. And once you have that, everything else starts falling into place. So I poured another drink and raised it to no one in particular. "To Madison," I said softly, "may she find the version of herself that doesn't need to destroy things to feel alive." Then I took a slow sip and smiled. Tomorrow was day 30, and I was ready, not for her return, but for my own. Day 30 came on a Sunday. Fitting, really. The quietest day of the week for the quietest ending of a story that had made too much noise. I made coffee, cleaned the kitchen, even ironed a shirt for no reason. Closure deserves clean lines. At exactly 11, tires crunched on the driveway. I didn't rush. I poured the rest of my coffee, took a sip, and waited for the knock I knew was coming. 3 taps. Confident, familiar. I opened the door, and there she was. Madison. Same face, different energy. Hair neat, makeup subtle. That "I rehearsed this in the mirror." Calm. She smiled softly. "Hey," she said, like we just paused a conversation, not a marriage. "Hey." I stepped aside. "Come in." She looked around the living room like it had aged without her. Everything was in its place. Cleaner, quieter, sharper. The air between us was polite but cold, like we were co-workers in a room too small for both egos. "You've been keeping it together," she said carefully. "Yeah," I said. "Turns out I'm decent company." She laughed nervously. "I missed your sarcasm." "I didn't," I said, sitting down. "Coffee?" "Sure." I handed her a mug and sat across from her. No tension, just calm, dangerous calm. The kind that makes people realize they've lost the right to affect you. Madison looked at the floor, then back at me. "I thought a lot these weeks. About us. About what we lost." "What did you lose?" I asked quietly. She blinked. "Excuse me?" "You said we, but from where I'm sitting, only one person wanted to hit pause. I just needed clarity." "And?" I asked. "Did you find it?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I realized I still love you. I just got scared. I thought maybe space would make me see what matters." I leaned back, arms crossed. "And what matters?" You, she said softly. Us. I want to fix this. There it was, the grand speech. The words that might have broken me 3 weeks ago now landed like an outdated password. I set my mug down and met her eyes. You really believe 30 days fixes what your friends helped you break? Her face tightened. What are you talking about? I reached for my phone, opened the gallery, and turned the screen toward her. Not dramatic, just deliberate. A list of messages. Chloe's name lighting up the display. Madison stared, then frowned. What is this? Your friend, I said calmly. She's been busy. Coffee invites, late-night messages, compliments disguised as pity. You'd be impressed. She's persistent. Her mouth fell open slightly. She messaged you? Almost daily, I said. Started as just checking in, ended with winks. You picked a great therapist. She shook her head, confused, maybe even ashamed. No, she wouldn't. She did, I cut in. And the funny thing, she used your lines, the same phrases you told me the night you left. Guess friendship really is about sharing. Madison stared at the screen like it was written in a language she used to know. I can't believe this. You should, I said quietly. You believed everything else she told you. Her hands trembled slightly as she set the mug down. Did you reply to her? No, I said. Didn't need to. I was busy watching how quickly loyalty turns into opportunity. She pressed her palms to her knees, eyes glassy. I swear I didn't know. I know, I said, and that's the problem, you never do. Madison looked up, desperate now. We can still fix this. We can talk to her, sort it out, start over. I shook my head. No, we can't, because this isn't about her. It's about you choosing people who love drama more than truth, about listening to everyone but me, about treating commitment like a mood. She swallowed hard. So what? You're just done? I nodded. Completely. Papers are ready. Her face froze. You filed for divorce? I took a small folder from the side table and slid it toward her. Everything's there. I figured you'd want a clean start. You said so yourself. She didn't touch it. You can't be serious. I'm calm, I said. That's how you know I am. For a moment, she just sat there, staring at the folder like it might change its mind if she did nothing. Then the tears came. Quiet, confused. The kind that sound more like guilt than love. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. I know, I said. People rarely mean to lose what they take for granted. She looked around the house again. Our house, her old safe place. And it was like she was seeing it for the first time. Everything familiar suddenly foreign. Every object a reminder that time doesn't pause just because you do. Finally, she said, What are you going to do? I stood up. Live. Probably better than before. And me? She asked. I paused at the door. Start by learning how to pick friends who don't flirt with your husband. She flinched like the words had weight. Maybe they did. A week later, Chloe texted again. I didn't open it. I didn't need to know what she said. I already knew the script. And Madison? She moved out quietly. Friends said she looked lost, like someone waiting for a movie ending that never came. But me? I didn't wait for anything. I started sleeping better, laughing louder, working harder. Not because I wanted to prove something, but because peace had finally stopped feeling like loneliness. They say time heals everything. That's not true. Time just shows you what wasn't worth healing. I wrote all this down because people keep asking what happened, like there has to be a villain. There isn't. Just choices. Some loud, some silent. She wanted a break. I gave her one, and I never took it back. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.